in his big tough fight with the Johan Perez on the widely debatable Canelo Lara undercard. Mauricio is kind enough to come back and give us some of his time. Welcome back to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me back.
Oh, good. Pleasure is all ours. And Mauricio, I talked about how that night brought out a lot of controversy, but one of the biggest arguments I brought up was that the Levi Martinez 117-111 scorecard to me was not the worst scorecard of the evening. It was Max DeLuca's 114 draw in your fight. Now, you're a guy that's been around with a lot of close decisions not going your way. What was going through your mind when those scores were being read?
Oh, people were asking me that, but I've been robbed a couple of times, and when I hear judges giving scores, I don't even. To be honest, I don't even pay attention to them. I just wait for the decision, and what happens, and the crowd's the one that sees everything. So to me, I've gotten used to it. I don't even bother paying attention to the scores. It's the crowd's reaction where I go by. So at that point, I think I remember I wasn't even really paying attention when they were announcing the scores until afterwards I saw it. But by now,
right.
I would get pissed off, but by now I'm just like, whatever, what can I do about it? I just let it be, I guess. And then, like the Danny fight, the crowd showed me that they're the judges, and they're the ones that, that pick you right up, and they're the ones that stick by you. I mean, those judges give bad scores, and, but the crowd sees it, so wherever you go, they let you know, that you won the fight.
Now, you seem like you were determined in this fight to really make an effort to stop your opponent, Johan Perez, a game opponent, a tough guy. You were certainly going after him. You did not let up. You were relentless. You were hitting him with solid combinations. You were doing everything a little bit different approach than Garcia, where you were aggressive. But I think in this fight, you were really going for the knock. Was that something you talked about going in? The announcers on the broadcast were saying that much, and if so, how disappointed were you that you were not able to take him out despite hitting him with some really clean, hard stuff?
Yeah, I was real disappointed. I had bad luck the week of the fight, arriving to Vegas. I had gotten sick, and by Wednesday I was at the point of almost canceling the fight. I got a fever in the night, and my energy was down, and that's not good when you're dehydrating, trying to make weight, and you're sick at the same time. So I was kind of angry at myself. I didn't want to cancel. I knew there was a lot of people rooting for me, and I had told everybody before I was going to try to look for a stoppage and be aggressive in that fight. I knew Johan was in his past fights. I knew he was not an aggressive guy, so I knew I was the one that was going to have to come forward. So I knew that from the start, so I knew I was going to try to be a little more aggressive and look for a stoppage or knockdown, whatever I can do, to impress everybody. But I think, my energy levels were going up and down in the fight. I really started to feel, I think the sick took some energy out of me, because, we trained real hard for this fight, and we were in great shape. I think that week I got sick. I was sick all that week and trying to make weight. I think that really took a little bit out of me in there. I felt it in there, and times where I almost had him hurt, and ready to take him out. I would tire out. My chest would, run out of breath real quick. I was in short breath, but in other rounds I would look, strong again. But I was just going up and down. But I was disappointed I didn't get the stoppage, that I wanted. But I think people still enjoyed the fight.
Oh, we definitely enjoyed it. It's interesting that you bring up the fact that you were ill. On a scale of 1 to 10, Mauricio, with 10 being the highest, how close did fight come to being called off because you were ill?
It was probably 8. On Wednesday I already had made up I was gonna cancel. I woke up in the middle of the night and was gonna make a call. I actually wanted to go get checked up in the doctor because I had the chest pains. I couldn't even breathe, and then I had a fever. And I called my manager, Willie. I was gonna call him. I didn't even know what time it was. I thought it was already like 9, 10 o'clock, and I wake up and it's 2:30 in the morning. And I was like, I have to wait these hours out now, but I gotta go get checked. I can't even breathe. And and then getting up and then feeling a little better. So I took every medicine there was at Walgreens, and everybody was just giving me all kinds of stuff. But but at the same time, you can't put any liquids in your body because you're trying to make the weight. So it's kind of you're like in between. So it's kind of hard. But yeah, I was real sick by Wednesday. I wasn't gonna fight, but then I pushed myself. I waited out to the weigh-ins, and thought, you know what, maybe after the weigh-ins, get something to eat and rehydrate. Maybe I'll feel a little better, and I did. I did feel a little better. I still had a little cold, but you could see in the press conference my voice was gone a little bit. But I knew I was like, maybe I won't be 100%, but I knew I can't let this fight go by. It was a good opportunity. And we pushed forward. I said, no, I'm just going to go with it. I'm going to go with it. I'm going to try to get a stoppage early or go all out, And I did, and I went through the whole 12 rounds.
All right, and you fought a great fight, and you should have won by a larger margin, in my opinion. But this is a fight that's coming off of what everybody felt, or I would say 98% of the people felt you were robbed against Danny Garcia. And this is a fight coming off of that. And you face a guy, Johan Perez, who's a capable guy, a tough guy, a guy who's been in there with a lot of experience fighters. But at what point was he the guy that was brought up to you? How many guys fell through? Were you trying to get other fights? Yeah. Obviously, the Garcia fight was definitely one. What other guys were you trying to get into the ring before you had to settle for Johan Perez?
Well, there was, we had mentioned we wanted, no name and a big fight. So they mentioned, we mentioned anybody, Zab Judah, Lamont Peterson, those guys, for the Canelo undercard, but I guess they came back with not enough money or little money for big risk, and so Zab Judah and Lamont didn't take the fight. They were asking for more money. So those two guys are the fights that dropped out, and then they said Johan at 140. They actually offered Robert Guerrero at 147, but that was before Canelo date. I wasn't ready for 147 yet. I said I still wanted 140 because we were campaigning, and they offered me Johan, and he had the WBA interim, so they said that's a good. But they were more leaning towards that because he has a belt, and I said, well, yeah, he has a belt. That's perfect to get a belt and could be in line for mandatory WBA. Danny has a WBA, so I thought, hey, maybe we can get him that way, And but yeah, Peterson and Judah fell off, and the Guerrero was at 147, and that date was a little earlier. So we went with Johan, and which was a tough guy. They were all going to be tough, and it was less money for Johan, but I didn't. What I really wanted is to capture a title, So I needed that WBA interim title.
All right, and obviously a lot going on at the 140 weight class, a lot going on with Danny Garcia, but you were a guy that was not bashful about the fact that not only you thought you beat Garcia, but he was kind of apprehensive about giving you that rematch. You've been vocal on the social media piece, and you haven't been shy. Has there been any real direct conversations with Garcia or any of his people about a rematch?
No, I guess Golden Boy. I guess Robert D is one of the guys there. I guess they mentioned it to him about a rematch, and they didn't want. His dad didn't want any. We had some of his people mention that that his dad was the main guy who didn't want it or maybe it was risky again, or whatever the case. But we haven't directly talked with them. In fact, I don't even think he likes us, his dad. So. I think he just wants something to do with us. He seems mad all the time, as you see when he talks about me, and angry. I guess people are also pissing him off about the fight. But no, we haven't talked to him directly. It's just going to each other, reach out to him, and they always mention that they go with whatever Al Heyman says. And, that's always a good way to hide, too. Just leave it up to them. I never mention anything like I leave it up to him. You're the fighter. You're the one that's going to go in there. You're the one that gets to choose. You're the one that wants. If you want to get what the people want, you can go that way. And Garcia's probably more involved with money. He wants to look for the easiest fight with good money. And I'm not that way. I want to give the people a fight, you know. And I think you go that way. That's what they used to do, you know, back in the day. All the fighters used to fight the best, and that's how I think, you know, and that's how I feel. I think it's a good way to go.
And what about the idea of Garcia being so vocal? I mean, he wasn't as vocal, I don't think, the night of the fight and the post-fight interviews and stuff like that. But since then, like you said, he's been on the offensive. He gets agitated, and he's even has been so bold to say he watched the fight again and he doesn't know what anybody is talking about. He scored the fight for himself 8-4.
Yeah.
I mean, can he really be serious about that? What do you think that's about?
Well, he says he watched the fight 5 times and he agreed 8-4. If it's 8-4, then you know that's pretty much a clean win. Why didn't he need to watch it 5 times? If it was 8-4, if he really felt that way, he didn't even need to watch it that many times. The fact that he watched it 5 times, it was just enough to try to convince himself that it was 8-5.
And now he's in a little bit of some trouble with the opponent that he's picked to fight next. I mean, it's one thing if you want to fight a tune-up fight. You don't see that much anymore. But back in the old days, we saw that a lot. But to try and pass this next opponent as a title fight, the last I heard, it's not going to be the title fight now. And we're talking about Rod Salka, a guy who's nowhere to be seen anywhere in the ratings, and now he was fighting for a championship, but I think that's been changed. Is that correct?
Yeah, I heard something like that too. I heard that they were.
Yeah, man. But either way, what do you think about that selection of an opponent? I mean, he could have gone a lot of different places, and
he said after my fight, I guess.
Right.
Yeah, he said he was going for bigger and better fights after me, and then after he said he made excuses. He couldn't make the weight 140. That's why he had a performance like he did with me, and so he's going to 147. And and now after time went by, he's still at 140. He's not fighting any bigger names, and he's going to fight Rob Saka and he's doing nothing that he said he was going to do, and maybe he needs a confidence booster or something. But I think he knows. I think they know they lost that fight. They're just trying to give maybe a easy fight. I'm not saying it's a guaranteed easy fight, but I mean, he's not looking for no tough fights. The guys that are ranked high, like I think Teddy Atlas said, the guys fought their way to the rankings for a shot at a world title, just got skipped all the way, and past them and went down to a 135-pounder, what I hear, and ranks, in the 77, 78 ranked guys. So, like I say, I feel bad for the other guys who worked their way up and they get overlooked, and it didn't make sense what Danny was doing. I mean, I was his first tune-up. How was his tune-up gone wrong, and he's doing it again?
Right. Yeah, you weren't looked at in a lot of people's eyes as a tough fight, and obviously they were wrong about that. Maybe they'll be wrong about this too. But the difference is you did enough to be in the ring with him. You earned the shot. A lot of people can't understand where this guy came from, Rod Salka, and for him, I hope he puts up a good effort and does what he can. And we'll see. But for your purposes, where does this leave you with the 140-pounders? Do you try and get a Lamont Peterson or a Zab Judah in the ring now? I mean, Guerrero is also an attractive possibility, but you would have to move up. Where do you feel you're at now?
Yeah, I think there's still fights at 140. Eventually you do want to move up 147. But try to maybe get a title at 140. Or fight a couple of tough guys at 140 and then move up. There's Matisse. I really like a Matisse fighting or John Molina. Those are tough guys. I think they're the style-wise that will make a great show for the people. Lamont Peterson as well. Anyway, there's still Ruslan out there. I mean, that guy is still a tough guy. I mean, he's not that easy to beat. I mean, you got to go through hell to beat him. There's that possibility. Golden Boy's working. I guess going to work with Top Rank now. So, I mean, there's a lot of guys. I'd fight anybody, any of them. I fought a lot of tough guys in the past. Alvarado, Ruslan and Danny. heavy hitters. And looking at past record, I've always been in there throwing with the line. So, I mean, nothing scares me now, and I just can't wait to get back in the ring and whoever it is, I'm just not afraid at all. I know I can go in there with more confidence.
Now, a guy that you have before, you mentioned a lot of the tough guys. Another big tough guy that you fought and lost a narrow decision to was Kareem Mayfield, and he's a guy that certainly has been on the downside. 2 tough losses in a row. I was talking before you came on about the idea that what's going on when a guy keeps switching back and forth to trainers. As a fighter, you would be a lot better equipped to answer that question than I do. And it looks like Mayfield, since he fought you, has been on the downslide, and there's been differences with the trainers, changing trainers. What do you think could be the possible reasons for stuff like that happening?
I don't know. I think, a fighter there's some fighters already have, bad habits. Sometimes those bad habits can help with awkwardness in the ring, of course, would depend on who he fights. But I think switching trainers, I think maybe just, it's mostly on him, I think some trainers just can't change the fighters that easy. And I think his style, I haven't seen his style change at all. Kareem's too much. He still just depends on that right hand and goes in and tries to smother you. I knew before when I was going to fight him, I guess he got Hunter because that was his first change. And I thought Hunter was going to change him a little bit, but when I fought him, he was just, the same guy, right hand hold. And he still looks, the same to me. Just the last fight I saw, some of it, he just looked more, he didn't look too much in shape. He looked like he was gassed out. So I don't know what, I think it's just him. He got to change. Maybe he was hard-headed or whatever, and there's just bad habits already in him that's kind of hard to change for whoever trainer, no matter who trainer he goes with. But, every trainer, and then when you're changing, they do add something in there, and that throws him off even more, and he keeps changing trainers. So that's not helping at all.
Yeah, we definitely saw some changes in you from the Garcia fight to this last fight with Perez, a conscious effort made going in there to be, I don't want to say more aggressive because you were aggressive in the Garcia fight, but more conscious of trying to get your guy out of there. Is that a team effort? Is that something that you and your trainers collaborate on beforehand? Because you made it known to the Showtime people that was your goal going in. How is that decision made up? Is it you yourself coming up with that?
Yeah, it's, a lot of it's me. I have a guy who helps me out with pads. Well, my story is from I turned late pro. So, I always used to, actually for a long time, used to train myself, just me and my brothers, out of the garage. And I would try to learn to box and be aggressive. I'd just been in the gym for a long time, and I started everything late, even in my amateur career. So there was a lot of times I would train myself. I didn't have trainers at the time. So when I turned 27, the guy that I originally went with, he was more or less of a manager than a trainer, and I was still, coming up with when we got an opponent, came up with just a game plan of what I wanted to do, whether box or be aggressive or both. And for this guy, I kind of always do just adjust in there on my own, but just watch tape on him, and then I end up telling them, I want to be more aggressive in this fight. And I think we need to be aggressive, and I could see, because I'm the one going in there, and I could kind of more or less see who I'm fighting, watch tape, and think, maybe, he's not coming forward. I think I'm the one that's going to have to be aggressive, and then I just tell them, hey, let's work on going forward a little bit, But as you see my fights in the past, I can do a little boxing, and if I need to be aggressive, I can be aggressive. So, but I like being the crowd pleaser sometimes, so I think I can do both, and I usually just come up with what I want to do.
Yeah, well, we've definitely seen different pieces of your game over your career, and it just seems like you're tapping that well that I don't think Kareem Mayfield has been able to tap yet. But you're talking about a lot of differences of opinions, who likes what, and the main event on the night you fought brought a lot of that out. when is boxing running, when is running boxing, and all that type of stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, you had a tough fight. You were ill. Did you even watch the Canelo-Lara fight that night, or have you watched it since?
Yeah,
if you haven't?
No, I didn't watch it since. You know, I got sick right after the fight. You know, everything just hit me, and we got out of there. You know, I think I only watched like the first couple of rounds. Last I was seeing was Canelo throwing some good hard body shots, and then I got home. When I got home finally on Tuesday, I watched some of it on the TV. I haven't really got to see it. I started reading stuff first, and that it was controversy. So, I was watching it, and you know, it was kind of tough to score. Laura was doing real good, you know, boxing. But I haven't watched it all, from round 1 to 12 to really see who exactly I felt won the fight. But I hear it was close. I hear it could have gone either way.
And there's been a lot of debate back and forth, and that's not the first time that's happened in this sport. But it certainly, and we see the whole controversy with Rigondeaux now. Is his style crowd pleasing enough to be on television and all that? And you always make a conscious effort to try and be more aggressive, and you did that well in your last fight. Usually you don't make a conscious effort usually to go the other way around. Usually that's not something you're looking for. So that's just one of my pet peeves. But a lot going on here with the 140. A lot of names thrown out there. I mean, even got guys like Jesse Vargas. A lot of good names rated in your division. Adrian Broner. So many different guys. You've been in with some tough guys already. But the biggest question for me is when will you get into the ring next? How much do you need to rest after the illness? After going a hard 12 rounds? How many more months do we have to wait to see you fight again?
Coming back after the fight, I came back Monday. On Tuesday, I told them I wanted to see me and just to say how they were happy with the performance and that they're looking to get me back and maybe back on, I think in November. I think Canelo will be coming back in Vegas again, sometime in November. So that's good enough time for me to rest and then get back into training. I think that's like over 3 months. I think. A little over 3 months, so that's perfect time. So hopefully in November will be my next date.
And if you had your preference, who would you be in the ring against?
I don't know. There's just so many names. It's just kind of like putting the names in the hat and it's whoever, Also I hear Jesse Vargas is going to be he's fighting for another WBA, which confuses me about these WBA belts. But I guess it's something of a mandatory of that winner of that or something, but they had mentioned that we can go that way, we can go with another bigger name. So, they were just throwing me different ways of how we can do it for November. But nothing is set yet. I don't know whoever the people would want to see, I guess, but I guess they would want to see with any of these big names. They're all potentials to be great fights, so I just don't know. There's a lot of names at 140, so it makes it hard.
Do you have a feel, and you might not want to answer this, but do you have a feel for who do you think would be willing to fight you the most?
I don't know. I have to go on the internet and see who's talking because I was but nobody cared or to know me or, any fighter probably wouldn't even know who I was. So I'm interested to see who is now, has called my name. I just actually heard today Thomas DeLorean saying something about wanting to fight me. He's a Puerto Rican. He's a tough guy. He's just the guy who beat Mayfield. That's a good fight, too. That's a good fight. He has fought my younger brother in the pros in New York. He beat him. It was a tough fight. So, there's a possibility with that, too. I guess the Golden Boy will throw me a couple names and then we'll choose. Maybe I'll put up something on the internet and find out who they want me to fight, who gets the most numbers, Yeah, it
certainly is a whole smorgasbord of choices for you, and that person has to be willing to accept the fight as well. And you mentioned the belts and all the different belts, and that's one of the major criticisms of what's going on in boxing today. When I grew up, there was two major champions. If you go way back, there was only one. Now there's a whole slew. Now there's a whole slew. You have two champions sometimes in the same sanctioning body, the WBA, DC. They all do it. But what does that mean for a fighter? You're a guy who just won a version of a belt in your last fight. Is that downgraded at all, the accomplishment of winning the belt, at the fact that a lot of people are critical against the system now because there are so many champions? What does that mean for you as a fighter?
It's kind of frustrating a little bit because you want just one champion, at 140, or somebody who can. And it's always where if somebody's about to, get all the belts, there's always either whether it's a bad decision or there's always something that goes wrong where not everybody can actually unify all the belts. And it makes it tougher when you win a belt, like people ask me, so you're a world champion or no, I'm a WBA interim, or what is that? And then you have to explain, and people kind of get confused, and sometimes they don't even know who the champion is because there's so many belts around, and some are interim belts, some international title, and it just gets all confusing with them, and then I think it confuses the fans. Well, some people, the ones who don't really know, and but yeah, it's too many belts, and if I would have had it made, it would have been nice if it would have given me the decision with Danny, I would have had all those belts, and then would have fought Algeria or something, or Le Mans, would have got another belt, and it would have been just, that would have been a perfect scenario there. But, one bad decision, and then look where Danny goes. Danny could fight a Lamont Peterson with, he has the belts, get all the belts. It's just too much running around, So that makes it harder. Yeah. It's frustrating. So, yeah, which was back in the days, you had one champion and win every weight division,
Yeah, and certainly is the case with 140. All the fighters in there. How fun would it be for all you guys to fight it out for one unified champion? We're never going to see that.
Yeah, there's too many running around. Danny could have fought Peterson for this date. He has a belt, or Algieri, because Algieri. So I guess those are only two belts. I guess that Danny would need, right? Which those belts are not really his anyways. But that's another story. But that's just how it goes. It is frustrating, especially like me. I get frustrated. Like I want a title, I want a belt, and Danny doesn't want to fight me. So who do I got to go around someone else? And Lamont won't fight me because he doesn't know who I am. And if I say, this guy's too risky, but I want more money, like what happened with Canelo. Him and Zach Judah didn't want to fight me because I was unknown. There was no money there, but they seen that I give Danny a run for his money. So, it just makes it that much tougher, in my spot.
Well, Mauricio, thank you for all the straight talk. Thank you for your time, and we hope to hear who your opponent is and when you will be fighting soon. You give it your all, and we appreciate your honesty in answering the questions. And I'll give you some final words before we let you go.
Oh, no, thank you for having me here. Thank you, all the fans.
All right, and you have the good rest of your night. Mauricio Herrera, victorious over Johan Perez. He finally gets one go his way, although this one shouldn't have been close. Gets the majority decision, and now is looking to move on and keep going, and we appreciate you coming on the show.
All right, you got that right. Thank you. Anytime.
All right.
You guys have a nice day.
All right, thank you. Mauricio Herrera, and you can tell he's real bitter at Danny Garcia, and it's something of a situation where you had a guy that was extremely popular and really had the world at his feet in the boxing world. The world was his oyster, and Danny Garcia after beating Matisse. And it's really gone downhill for him fast. And it's not so much about the fight itself, the fact that he didn't perform that well. You got to give Herrera credit. He went in there with a game plan, and he should have gotten the fight. That's one thing. But the situation that followed with Garcia being real snippy about the fact that nobody knows what they're talking about. He clearly won the fight. That's one part of it. And now this decision to fight a guy that nobody knew, did not. I mean, I'm more deserving of a title shot than this guy. He tried to pass it off as such. So those are the types of things that are really downsizing Danny Garcia in terms of talent. A guy who not that long ago was being mentioned in the same breath with Floyd Mayweather as a showdown against him. He's really got. I mean, no matter what he does with this guy Salka, he's still going to be on the hot seat. And if he ever has a tough fight with him, you could forget it. His only way back is to really fight the Herreras again, fight these tough fights, and get back to what brought him there. The fact that he fought Lucas Matisse was great. That was one of the biggest treats we had of the year. And it was a great fight. And he's thrown all that goodwill away I don't know why. I mean, I know there's been fighters in the past who would not, and, nobody's expecting him to downright say, yeah, I lost. So I don't know. And then we got the guy like Herrera who's struggling to get a big fight, and he's willing to fight anybody. So that's how, that's how the world of boxing goes, and that's how the cycle is. And we just have to deal with it, and I hope Garcia gets back on track and gets back to the way he was, because it was a good thing for boxing. I mean, he was a good champion. He was fighting a tough fight. He was having spectacular wins. And one tough fight in Puerto Rico has really put a damper on things for him. I don't even know how he's going to be psyched to fight this guy Salka. Maybe he's just angry enough to shut everybody up and he'll come out there and look spectacular. But if he does, it's not gonna even make a difference with most of the fans. They don't even think this fight should be occurring. The good news is that, from what I hear, it's no longer a title fight. So at least the boxing world gave us that much. They didn't embarrass themselves that much. And that fight is obviously August 9th in Brooklyn, Barclays Center. From what I remember, it's the main event as well. And there's a lot of talent on that card. I don't know how many quality fights there are, though. But we'll talk about that, obviously, when we get closer to that card. But we thank Mauricio for coming on, and we'll definitely keep our fingers crossed and hope he gets a really good challenge for his next fight, because he'll be willing to scrap. Win, lose, or draw, he won't make excuses. And he'll go in there with his best effort. I mean, there's a whole, you heard the list of names that are possible. You heard the list of names that fell through prior to him matching up with Johan Perez, who was the number one rated guy in the WBA, by the way. We'll be back right after this.